Blokies are coming.
everywhere. They're like, no, every place I go, every store I go, they have those Blokies. Why can't we have GI Joe Blokies?
Oh, they're coming. They're coming this year.
I think that's where you get into the kids because they're cheaper.
See, I would be interested in GI Joe Blockies. I think that would be something cool. I've actually been looking to get into some of the Transformers Blockies, but I want to get the G1 figures to build with my daughter.
Well, there's plenty of them. They've been doing that for a couple of years now, so there's plenty of those to get.
The Soundwave looks awesome. And I know you've got some of the Blockies in your store, Dan.
Oh, yeah, we got quite a few. They sell pretty good for us.
The profit margin on them is not too bad either.
No, it's really not. And we get them from Pete St. Clair, his distribution channel, and he's easy to work with. And they're really nice.
Love them.
Yeah, but we also have Sesame Street, Minions. We're supposed to be getting Marvel ones, and we're definitely getting GI Joe this year and Power Rangers. I think Power Rangers is already out.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, Joe's coming, and there might be other properties too. So, welcome to Toy Talk, everybody.
Hello. Hello, everybody.
That's David. That's Terry, and I'm Dan. We're coming at you live. Some of us are in undisclosed locations. Some of us are just in our toy rooms. But we're here to talk about toys and the things that make you happy.
Yep. And I think
the Blockies make you happy. Folks, in the chat, the Blockies make you happy.
But Dan, there is definitely a conversation about what we were talking about when we started. Trying to get the children, that next generation, into these brands, because I don't want to be morbid, but the 60th anniversary group are dying off, and we're getting into that late 40s, early 50s, and I don't know how long a lot of us are going to be around with our health issues and family issues and things like that. So I don't want to get into
some of us in our age group are already falling off. So
yeah. There you go. That's true. You're right.
And sorry if I'm saying stuff I've said before, and I don't mean to go on a rant, but I think you can serve two masters. You can serve the old fans. You should have generational customers. That's the number one thing. You should have generational customers. Mm-hmm. We have them at our store. Department stores had them. Home Depots have them. I mean,
they care about that anymore.
The goal of every business is to have generational customers.
It's weird.
Now, Hasbro doesn't have solid leadership. That's the problem. You have people from the food industry, and then people from I don't know. They just don't understand. There's no one really with imagination. Like, hey, how do we get kids into this? Well, you have something called YouTube, which we're on right now. You have something called Rumble. You have Instagram. You have all these different online platforms that you can bypass government standards and all that stuff. You can produce a cartoon, put it on, you get all your demographics for people have to sign in for it. So, hey, we've got 8 to 12 watching
but Dan, you know what? It's weird. It's they focus this generational aspect on certain brands. Transformers is a very generational brand. If you go to Walmart right now, there are Transformers for 5 or 6 different class of fans there. Children, little kids on up to our ages. The same with Barbie. So why do they do it with Hot Wheels is another one. So there are brands that they do this with, but certain brands they won't do it with. So why does it have to be certain brands that do it with, but some they don't? I don't get the difference.
Because, David, some men just like to watch the world burn. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of because it's not logical. If you think about it, so I had somebody tell me one time, well, kids are different. I'm like, how so? Are they born different? Do they come from different places now? They eat food, they play sports, they go outside, not all the time. They like video games. They do like toys. They like the same stuff we did when we were kids. The only thing that's different is the internet. Now, I don't know any kid out there that's getting on the internet and reading it like the Encyclopedia Britannica. So when they say the internet, it's like, well, let's just be honest. They're YouTube and social media is what they're into, and hopefully not bad things. But
TikTok,
that's
Instagram.
But with the social media, you should be able to reach the kids, and it's you could make a cartoon, have it on the Hasbro channel. You can monitor it. you know exactly what demographic you have. So yeah, all of us are going to watch it, but my son would probably watch it. So you do like logins, like family account, this whatever. You can tell how many people are watching your show and how many downloads it gets. You can make your own commercials. You know, you don't have to go through the FCC
You
because it's
know,
your YouTube channel.
you
And
make an interesting point because on a I think it was Adventures in Collecting a while ago in December. They had the Hasbro team on there, and they brought up an interesting cartoon series called Resolute. That it's an adult cartoon, and there's a much more mature
oh yeah,
audience that watch that cartoon, and they want to make figures based on that cartoon. That tells you right there they are not gearing this stuff to kids.
Yeah, I don't think any of it really matters, honestly. I mean, I think that like these companies are going to make money however they can, and they see the cash cow that they're going to cash in on, and that's pretty much it, dude.
well, you know, here's the thing though, and this is the most key opponent or component of it. And David, you were saying something about the Transformers. There's different types of Transformers, right? You can't dumb it down because it's going to kids. Like G.I. Joe and Transformers cartoons were not dumbed down.
No.
I mean, yeah, they were
I've
made
said
for
that many
kids,
times.
but you
I've said
can
that
watch
many
them
times.
as an adult now. Look at Batman the Animated Series, Justice League Unlimited, all that stuff. The TMNT from 2012, that ran from 2012 to like 2018 or whatever the time frame was. A kid could watch it, and you could sit with your kid and watch it, and both are entertained. It's
Yeah.
not hard to do,
No.
but the problem is they want to dumb it down. And here's a good example of something. So, was it last year or 2 years ago that Transformers one came out?
Yes.
No idea.
Okay, so they put out a horrible trailer. I heard the movie was good, but they put out a horrible
I
trailer.
love the movie. I've seen
And
it.
it was
several
some
times.
silly Billy Love and Thunder Thor type humor and trailer. So it didn't do well because of that trailer. Now a friend of mine said, "Well, hey man, you got to remember they're gearing this towards kids." And I'm like, "Bro, the stuff that we still like 40 years later was geared towards kids. It was done right and it still holds up."
So
It's
I'm
like-
curious, Dan.
Yes, sir.
Question I have for you: who's your target audience?
In my book,
What's your book again?
excuse me.
What's your book series again?
Well, Actionverse Entertainment is my company, and we have a line of books. The first couple of books are The Dominus and Dominus 2, Babylon Rising. My audience is kind of, I'd say 12 to 60. Is I try to write, honestly, Terry, the way I do it is I write something that I would like. Whether I'm doing, like when I did the pitch for G.I. Joe back in 2018 to Hasbro, I wrote what I wanted to see. I didn't worry about like what everybody on the internet was saying or that person. And other writers, I've heard them say this from Larry Hama to Roger Stern to just Brian Michael Bendis, whoever. Write what you want to see. If it's good, you got a gig next month. If not, you're out of a job. You know, and it's pretty easy and pretty simple. You know, it's like if you're a football coach, coach your team. If you coach it the way you want to and it's successful, you're winning championships and you're going to have a long job. You know, if not, you're gone. And time to reevaluate. So
And that's an interesting thing you say that, Dan, because George Lucas has been quoted as saying almost exactly the same thing. He made entertainment that he wanted to see, and that's why they were successful, because there were more people that wanted to see what he wanted to see.
there's kind of a thing, like as a wrestling fan, they have this thing like you got to have the look, you got to be able to talk on the mic, you got to be able to wrestle, but you have to have that it factor.
So tell us what this
the
is.
it
What is
factor.
the Dominus?
Okay, so the Dominus is 6 friends that grew up in an orphanage get together and go on a quest to protect the Holy Grail from the Antichrist, and through the story they get powers and abilities.
So how do
it's kind of what you,
how do they go on this quest?
well, I don't want to spoil the whole book, but they the lead guy here, Thomas, guy in the middle there, he's the world's richest man, and he gets everybody together for a reunion at the orphanage they grew up in. So he takes them out on a night out on the town. Then they go back to the orphanage and they're kind of reliving memories. And a certain word is said that triggers memories. A word called peregrinus, which is Latin for crusaders. and they started having these weird memories. That one guy could kind of levitate off the ground. One guy could like turn into almost like fire or like a blue plasma flame. One guy could do like anything he put his mind to. One guy was super smart. I mean, there's all these like weird memories. And he tells him a story that now Thomas is not an orphan. Thomas's parents were the benefactors of the orphanage, and to teach him humility, he went to school at the orphanage. And there's a whole secret backstory about that we haven't gotten into yet. But his dad, the priest that ran the orphanage, was named Father Marvin O'Brien, and so you find out he was charged with a task to find 12 kids and born in the span of 5 years that would be baptized by the Holy Grail, and they would have superpowers and abilities, and they would grow up to fight the Antichrist. And if they win, we get like another 2,000 years or whatever. That part's not really important, but he only was able to get to 6 kids. The other kids and their families, the hospital staff, were all murdered, slaughtered, whatever. And there's a creature out there called the Dark Emissary, who's like everyone's favorite villain. He really is really awful in the second book, and people were like, "Man, he's a really good villain." And I'm like, yeah, "He's a lot of fun to write. And his story's not over with." I actually just wrote a scene with him in it in the third book, but they get kind of trained when they're kids. You find out in the backstory, they're trained when they're kids, and then when they get adopted out, something happens, their memory goes dormant, and so do those abilities or powers. And I don't want to spoil how those abilities reawaken in them, but Thomas tells him this tale that his dad found some map leading to this hidden land where it's believed the Holy Grail is kept. And around the same time, a business associate named Raymond Crane approaches his dad about going on a joint venture for something called Operation Avalon. And Avalon was the name of the place where the Grail was kept. And Thomas's dad has a really bad feeling about it. So he kind of destroys the map. And then 2 weeks later, Thomas's father and mother are killed in a supposed car wreck. And Thomas never believed they died in a car wreck, believes they were killed. So he's telling the story to the group, and they're like, "Oh, this is just crazy." One of them's like really kind of an a-hole in the group. And he's like, "This is crazy. And, I know you're rich and it's gone to your head, but like, and I know we're getting these weird memories, but I mean, come on, man. Like, this is sounding too, fantastic or whatever." And then the priest shows up and he confirms everything they said. And he tells them that Raymond Crane is the Antichrist and they have to stop him from getting the Holy Grail because the Holy Grail is the most powerful weapon on earth. And right when they says that, they get attacked. They get attacked by this group called the Phoenix Project. And they're just kind of this army. It's kind of like my nod to like Cobra Blue shirts and the Clone Troopers. They have these they have goggles on, and if the goggles come off, all around their eye are these weird like kind of wrinkle and lines, and you can kind of tell they're clones. And so they attack them, and one guy in the group, John, who's a special forces operator, he just kind of goes to town on these guys. And of course, the priest, he's pretty cool. He's got a machine pistol. So you always got to appreciate a priest that's got a machine pistol and that he's a good shot. And so they kind of like stop this assault. And then he's like, hey, this is all real. And I don't want to spoil the book.
Well, if he's got a machine pistol, is he mafia? Is he a made man?
Who, the priest?
Yeah.
He's had an interesting life, we'll just say. I'm going to do an origin story about him one day. Because I've got a whole line of, and like, this is just kind of like the whole idea of this was, I want to do a superhero book without it being like superheroish and like, it's been done to death and all this sort of thing. And I thought, well, what's the most obvious way for people to get powers or abilities? Because it's not necessarily like they're superheroes. I mean, there's some super strength one guy has, one guy can fly, but other ones have like abilities. And they put those abilities kind of make them who they are. And I thought, well, Michael Jordan was the greatest basketball player ever because he was blessed with that skill. Now, you had to practice to use that skill, and he's the guy that practiced the most. But he was blessed with that. So I thought, well, why don't we kind of work an angle like that? And
So
I didn't want to make it.
this is the first book of the Dominus.
That's the first book.
What's the second book? What's
The second book is
you've got
Dominus.
two that are out.
Yeah, the first one's the Dominus. The second one's Dominus 2, Babylon Rising. And that one was really fun to write. Um, I'm a big believer in listening to music when you write or to come up with ideas, because there's something about music, your mind and the soul, that is just so incredible. Not to sound all pie in the sky or whatever, but I was working on a separate book that's in the same universe, called Crossplot. And there's a character in the first book that's mentioned, not by name, but just mentioned. And that book's all about her. And she's got a whole different story or whatever. But the soundtrack for Dune came out on YouTube, and I started. Well, that was weird. What happened
I'm
there?
sorry.
Not sure what happened there.
Yeah. Anyway, we're you go ahead and keep talking.
The soundtrack for Dune came out, and I was on my way back from picking our merchandise up for the week. It's a couple years ago, and two songs on that soundtrack made my mind write the second Dominus book. So when I got home that night, I started on it and got it done pretty fast for me, for a big project or whatever. And of course, Zoo is my artist who I introduced you to.
Right.
And the art from the first and second book is just like lights out. He did a good job on the first book. He does a great job on the second book. And I think the same thing on my writing. I mean, people that have bought it from me, they love it. One guy will go on and on about it, and it makes me almost kind of embarrassed. You know, like people are thinking I'm paying this guy to say this stuff, and I'm not. But the second book really kind of spoke to me. First book took a long time to write because I started working on it right before I bought my store. And then it originally was going to be a comic book series. Dark Horse looked at it. IDW looked at it. The Dark Horse looked at it. They saw it. I put a trailer together, and this is going back to the MySpace days. And they saw it on MySpace, and they contacted me about it. But then the recession hit, and they scaled back. Everybody scaled back, which was smart. And then it just kind of was in limbo. And then the store took all my effort, and then we were just got to the point. I had Brandon Jarwa, who used to work on GI Joe, was helping me with editing. I had talked to Tim Seeley about art back in the day. He thought the script was cool, but he was so busy doing GI Joe. I was like, no, I understand, that's cool. And then a friend of mine who was associated with Devil's Due, he was doing he was like their military consultant. He was starting his own company, and he liked my script, and he wanted to. There you go. There's book 2.
Yeah, finally found it.
What's that?
Finally found it. It took me a few minutes.
Now, in book 2, so book 2 takes place about a year and a half after the events of book 1. And I'll just say there's a big Uncle Ben moment in book 1 that kind of turns the guys into what I call the frightening power of good. And they have to defend the Holy Grail from about an army of 1,000, and plus this creature, the Dark Emissary, and the Antichrist is in it. And he's not all. It's not like what you think it is. Like people are like, is it a religious book? And I'm like, it's about as religious as Raiders of the Lost Ark. It has some elements in there, but it's a mixture. And some guys said, "Oh yeah, I can see what you liked in the '80s, or I can see the influence of GI Joe."
It reminds me a lot of some horror movies that I used to watch.
It's funny because it has a really big horror element to it, and I didn't plan on that. It just kind of happened.
It reminds me of The Prophecy.
Okay. Yeah, with Christopher Walken.
Yeah.
Okay, I could see a little bit of that. Yeah, I've never seen that movie all the way through, and I was actually did a pitch on that book several years back. Actually, before I finished getting Dominus ready.
I'll tell you, like all of the Prophecy movies that have Christopher Walken are really good.
Oh yeah, I remember when they came out, and I just never saw it all the way through. And I was gonna rent it, and I thought, well, I'm just gonna read the synopsis because I don't want to be jaded by it. If this guy's pitching a it was a pitch to a comic book company. Um, they were trying to get the rights to it, and they wanted to like, hey, here's our pitch, and so I was invited to do it, and I kind of deviated off the story a little bit because I'm like, well, how do you make it an ongoing, you know? So
Right.
I was like, well, let's deviate from it, and I had kind of some interesting stuff to it, but anyway, yeah, the second book's pretty cool because the second book the there's a dream in the second book that's very very cool. A friend of mine that had passed away a few years ago, I'd written this dream sequence years and years and years ago for something totally different, and he read it, and his words were, "That's the illest thing I've ever read in a comic," and it just was like that was a big confidence booster, and I just kind of kept it in a drawer, and then when I was doing the Dominus too, I was like, how do I start the book? Because uh, I need something to kind of get it supercharged. And then one of the Dune songs off of Dune, I was like, where's that dream at? So I found it, I found the file, kind of read through it, and then I rewrote it to that and listening to that music over and over and over and over. And then I came up with the dream sequence that's in the book. And so it kind of gets going from there. And um, they're in a bit of a cold war with Raymond Crane and his Phoenix Project because they can't go out and say, "Hey, this guy's the Antichrist," because he has alibis, and you'll kind of figure it out when you read the first book how they can't prove that, and then nothing's ever connected to him, and then it would also kind of make them look nutty, and it would out them that they have these abilities and powers, which one guy's a NSA guy and the other one's a special operations guy, and you can only imagine what the government would do when they're like, "Hey, wait a minute, this guy we spent millions of dollars on making him a killer is like kind of can do all this cool stuff. Like, yeah, you're gonna ring that in, buddy, and work for us, you know." So they had to kind of keep that part secret, but yeah, it's fun to write. The third book, I'm 21 pages into it. It kind of closes a story arc, and then books 4, 5, and 6 4 and 5 kind of flow together. Number 4, they'll be in space, so it's gonna be pretty neat. And there's
That's wild to me, like how you're making the transition from uh, being, an Earth-based reality to taking this team to space.
well, it's not well. I should say that some people that read book 2 got mad at me because they had favorite characters in book 1, and things happen to people. But sometimes things work out, and sometimes they don't. We'll just say that because I don't want to. And I purposely wrote the first couple pages of book 3. Uh, you'll read it and be like, "Damn it, you son of a bitch, you killed them," and then you'll realize, "Oh, okay, that's not their graves. Never mind." But so there's the team's different from the beginning of the book to the end of the book. The team changes because of circumstances and things that happen to them. And I will say that Thomas, I'll give a quick rundown. So Thomas, the lead guy there, he's bonded to the sword Excalibur, and he can do all types of fantastic things with it. And then, sorry, I don't have my contacts in. The big guy kind of up in the air, that's Big Nate. He can fly and he has super strength. The guy that's kind of turning into like blue plasma, that's Simon. He turns into this kind of like plasma blue energy. There's a guy that's a shadow. He has a whip called the Legacy Whip, and it's pretty neat. So the whip it has like a bolo whip, kind of like Tiger from Thundercats. So the bolos can extend out to any length. So like if you're falling off a building, he could jump off, grab a steeple with one and catch you with the other and hold the handle. Now, if he takes the bolo whip and wraps it around himself, he turns into a living shadow and he can draw all the shadows to him. Um, Dre he's one in the kind of like the costume, the armor costume. He uses more of his brain than any human on the planet. So he's kind of like their inventor. And so he makes this suit called the Halobs, high altitude, low opening battle suit. So it uses kinetic energy to create sectional force fields. So imagine if you're going to halo jump, instead of popping a chute, you would just turn this on, and all the kinetic energy would make a force field around you, and you'd just be like a bullet or a missile. And so he has a bunch of cool gimmicks with that suit. And who am I leaving out there?
Just the big guy in the back.
Oh, wait a minute. John, who I don't think John is pictured, because John's very prominent in the first book. He has a really badass page in the second book because he's a special operations guy. And he's part of a book that I'm doing eventually. It's like my homage to G.I. Joe. Um, you see him in a page of the book, and it's pretty cool. But if you took Snake Eyes and Captain America and kind of put them together, that would probably be John. So his mind, body, and will are perfect. So if he thinks it, he can do it. So if he says, "I'm going to jump on that car, flip off, and ride that horse," he'll will his body to do it. And plus, he's a phenomenal fighter, marksman, and all that. So he's only in one page of the second book, and it's pretty cool the page he's in. But he's very, very prominent in the book I'm writing right now. In fact, he takes down. We'll just call it a bad guy base. He takes it like the whole team will go take one down. John takes one down by himself because he's pissed off. And the guy in the back, that's the Dark Emissary, and he is. If you zoom in on his face, he's missing some eyes, and he gets a new pair of eyes in the second book. He's there's a cool scene in the first book with his eyes, and I don't want to spoil it for any potential readers, but it's pretty cool. But yeah, he's kind of the main villain, and the the Antichrist. He's just kind of like a background character. He does a really bad thing in the first book, which triggers the good guys, and then he kind of gets dealt with, or supposedly dealt with. But he's always in the background looming. Now he hasn't done like the evil trickery stuff yet, and making dogs eat people, and like in the Omen and all that. He's just kind of but he does do something in the second book, which kind of puts not only our planet but the whole universe in peril because something's called upon, and I don't want to ruin all that for any readers out there. But like the last couple pages of the book, people really really like because it's kind of neat.
So where can we get these two books?
You can get them off my eBay store, AV Toys and Comics, right now, or you can get them in my store, Zone Comics and Toys. If we're thinking about doing a Kickstarter because we've got some extra stock that we found, so we're thinking about doing because we sold out of the first printing of the first book. I way up the orders on the second book, so I still have plenty of stock on that. But I have a lot of the second prints left because we did like 3 successful funding campaigns on these. I did all those on Indiegogo, which is like Kickstarter. And so I'm thinking about using Kickstarter because I know you're doing our deals on Kickstarter. I've purchased things off Kickstarter, like the Joe and Transformers compendiums, the Skeletron, all that stuff. So I'm thinking about doing one on Kickstarter to see how we do. And I know I'm I've been doing this podcast with you guys. Has it been almost a year, maybe, or close to a year? I'm still fairly new to your audience, and I'd like to tap into your audience.
I'm still fairly new to my audience too. We're still building an audience, so I mean.
Oh, sure, but I think like this is a good format to try to get people into the book and all that, because I would just love to sit and keep doing these books until I can't function anymore. Because I've got a whole and I'm not doing like the one thing that I've seen companies do because so I told somebody the other day that failure is an interesting thing. You can learn from failure and win, or you can learn from failure or not learn from failure and lose. And so I've seen a lot of companies, I've known people in companies that have a little bit of success, no success, and have learned from their mistakes and mistakes I've made too, to get me where I'm at right now. And so it's I don't know, it's one of those things that I don't want to. I have a whole universe full of characters, but I'm not trying to put out 12 titles and here's the action verse. You should love it and appreciate it, because that's not what Marvel and DC did. Marvel, had Fantastic Four, then they have Spider-Man. You kind of runs into the Fantastic Four. Oh, cool. There's like the same universe, and then they're kind of doing their own thing, and then every now and then they cross over. And here's Captain America. Here's this group. Here's that group. That's a smart way to do it, because like my second series is called Crossplot, and I don't have a name for the military book. I had a name, but somebody used that for something, and I don't want to get in a pissing fight with them over a name. Um, and the it's just like little subtle nods, like when you read it, like, oh, okay, that references this, not where it's like, here's 12 books you should care about this universe. Because there was a company called Alias Comics that did that. They had actually sent me a contract for my book, and I sat on it, just and I had some questions about it, and then they were like, "Hey, we're not doing comics. We're doing Christian bookstore stuff." And I don't think they did anything because they put out too much at once, and you just can't. You have to make people interested in something before you just go all out. Like you, that's like one of the problems they did with the DC movies. Like the Marvel Universe movies, Marvel Studio movies. You had Iron Man, and you kind of built out from there to where, and then you could kind of make it acceptable. Okay, there's a Thor. Oh, cool. There's the Guardians of the Galaxy, and then next thing you know, you got two movies back to back, doing $1 billion. That everybody's in it. You know, and where DC was like, well, let's go from Iron Man, or let's go to Civil War to Endgame, and it just that doesn't work. You have to like slowly introduce people to it,
Yeah.
and whether they are familiar with it or not. Like how they're doing with GI Joe and Transformers and the Skybound universe stuff. They're not just like, okay, you know what GI Joe is, go with it. No, they're telling you what it is or what this version is. Just like in the Iron Man movie, which I think is a perfect movie, perfect trailer, perfect movie, perfect casting, everything about it's perfect. It holds up, and it's one of those things where like I know who Iron Man is, but I want you to tell me who he is in the movies. And they took all the elements that were successful of the character and they updated it and translated it into the movies. And that's what Hasbro or whoever should do with these toy properties. It doesn't. I don't want a cartoon based in 1982. I don't want a movie based in 1982. Just take what works, the characters.
Man, that's another reason why um, I finally decided, like, in addition to talking to you about it, I finally decided that, like, why not just do it? Why not just make what you want to happen happen?
Well, that's what I did.
And that's, I think that's what more people need to do, man. We need to have a lot more people getting out there and making what they want to see happen and enabling each other and promoting everybody's stuff.
I think I told you this a long, long, long time ago. When you had me on a live stream and interviewed me. I think you won like awards for that live stream too, I believe. It was like, but but back in the mid '80s, so I have a sister and brother. I'm 11 and 10 years older than, or 10 and 11 years older than, and I was kind of like a built-in babysitter. I'd be getting ready to go to my friend's house on a Friday, and they're like, "No, we're going out. You're watching your sister and brother." I'm like, "Awesome." Wasn't really on my bingo card today, but cool. Uh, but I was older than them, and I was starting to get into superhero stuff, and they were like still in like Fisher Price, and they'd always want me to play with them, and so I was trying to like entertain them and entertain myself. Well, we used to eat the Super Golden Crisp cereal all the time, and he had these sugar bears they came out with. They were about 5 inches tall. They were like little stuffed 5 inch plushies, and he had like a blue shirt on that said Sugar Bear all over it. And I noticed that we had six of them, and that I noticed you could put He-Man gear on them, Mego gear, A-Team gear. A lot of that stuff would fit it. And so I still had my Mego Captain America shield. It was like the sticker was ripped in half, and that was part of our mythos. So I created this team called the Sugar Bears, and later they got renamed the Crusaders. And we probably had 500 episodes, 1,000 episodes of stories we did. And then like when the X-Men toys came out from Toy Biz, I would integrate them, or Ninja Turtles, they would get integrated, like they would team up, and I would kind of do it all. David will appreciate this. I would do it all like story arcs and nighttime soaps. We'd have an opening, we'd have like a mid-season finale, which is usually around Christmas. I'd have the holiday season, then I'd have the comeback, and then the finale, and then we'd have the summer season, which was like annuals. And like, so anything new, like Lieutenant Falcon was somebody's bodyguard. He had retired from GI Joe, having survived Cobra Law. It freaked him out, and he was like doing bodyguard work. I mean, we incorporated like DuckTales. I mean, everything we could, we incorporated into this. And so that went dormant. My family moved away. Years later, I went down to visit my sister and brother. I said, "Hey, do you guys still have all the Sugar Bear characters?" They're like, "Yeah." So they got them out, and we kind of had this reunion show, if you will. And so when I was flying back home from Florida, I was like, couldn't get it out of my head. And so I got paper out and started like, where would these guys be at now? So it's been like 5 years later. And so I started writing stories. And this is back when I sold real estate. So I would go in our real estate because I didn't have a computer at home, but we had a computer at the real estate office. So I'd go in late after hours, do my real estate work, and then I would write stories on the computer. And then I was going to send them to my sister and brother and just have them, because I couldn't get it out of my head. And then we, best friend of mine at the time, like, what is this stuff you keep? I see these stacks of these papers, and I was like, oh, you can read it if you want. You probably won't like it. He loved it. Then somebody else found it. I had up to 80 people on a subscription list for just scripts that I would write on these characters. And I was going around delivering them. People were like, "Man, where's number 10 at? I need to find out if they survive." And I'm like, "Well, I'm working on it. I was selling real estate, working in the cell phone business, uh, doing other things." And I was like, "I'll get to it when I can." But like, call out and get this story done. And my boss is telling me this. Like, I had people that liked me, didn't like me, kids, adults, old people, colleagues, customers. 80 some odd people on this list, man, that I was going around. When I get them done, I'd print it up, bind it, and give it no artwork at all. It was just my logo, and it was written. It was almost kind of written like a teleplay, where there's exposition, and then there was the dialogue, and I would
Man,
describe the scenes and all
I have
that.
found that there's like an entire world of that, an entire world of just the like, and some people call it fan fiction or whatever, but I mean, I don't really see it as being fan fiction since it's like original creations, but just like where people will pay for subscriptions to read the creations of other people.
Yeah, because they're interested in reading new stuff.
Yeah.
So it finally got to the point where I thought, okay, maybe there's something to this, right? And because ever since like high school, I wanted to be a comic book writer. And I also wanted to be a movie director and direct Lord of the Rings, but somebody beat me to that. I don't think that goal is happening. But see, we learn from failure,
Dan, do you have an actual G.I. Joe story of any character, any variation of G.I. Joe in any animation or anything that you would like to tell? Is there a story that you would like to tell?
Oh gosh, yeah, I did. I did 2 pitches to Devil's Due when they had it, and I think if they continued with the license, it was going to get published. Because I actually did Devil's Due did a contest, and I won their contest with a 5-page sample of the Dominus before it is what it was. A different artist. I wrote it differently, and so I kind of had an in with them. I was like, oh, this is great. Maybe I could write a Joe story. So I had an issue. I had an issue, special missions issue, I think it was, where because they were starting to do these special missions like as a quarterly book or something, or I can't remember. And because this is going back like 22, 23 years ago. So I wrote a Snake Eyes story where he infiltrates a terrorist plane, and I had I based it off a Chemical Brothers song from like back in like 97, 98 that I would listen to, because I would visualize like him on a parachute, that the plane's trying to hit him, he blows it up. It's got this cool music, but in the book, you hear his thoughts for the first time. Well, I guess they did it once before in the Hammer series, but like you'd hear his thoughts, like why he does what he does, how he deals with tragedy. And then there was another story, which involved some of the October Guard and like a handful of Joes, where there were some Chechen rebels that kidnapped some people or something. And so the Joes and the October Guard had like 24 hours to get him out, or Russia was going to do an airstrike on the spot. But it was filled with, they didn't know it, but it was filled with chemical weapons. So it looked like Russia launched a chemical attack on Chechnya. So the Joes and the October Guard had to like work together. Oh, Ace got shot down. That's what it was. Ace got shot down and captured on a surveillance mission. It was like a joint deal, him and a Russian pilot. And I think the bad guys killed the Russian pilot on TV. This is like back when the terrorists were beheading people on the internet and stuff. And I thought, okay, well, they got the Russian guy. Ace is next. They're going to kill him in 24 hours. The Russians are just going to bomb it. And so that was a story. But there's I've got a. I would love to do. I mean, gosh, I would love. I could do endless stories on the book or the characters, but a couple things in particular. I always like the line in Rise to Pinto Arise when Beachhead's giving everybody crap. You know, cross country with the tape deck and the Havoc. These guys are playing video games. You got a guy over there falling asleep. Well, if I
Yeah.
was in charge, and Flint's like, you're not. First comes Hawk, then Duke, then me, then you. Oh, yeah, well, maybe that'll change someday. And I thought, oh, what if this was someday? And now Beachhead was leading G.I. Joe. So you'd have Snake Eyes as kind of your elder statesman. He's still in the game. We don't know how, but he still is. Beachhead leads the team. General Hawk is like Secretary of Defense. You know, Duke is retired or something. And just like new characters led by Beachhead. Beachhead's now like Hawk. And then you got Snake Eyes is still in it. Maybe he's not as fast as he used to be. That's why he has an apprentice. And then I would love to do a follow up to Worlds Without End, where we go back to that universe to see if Grunt, Clutch, Steeler, Baroness, and her hot Cobra ladies were able to rebuild GI Joe or some version of it, and what happened with the first Cobra Civil War between the Commander and Destro. I think a lot of that would be fun. And then when I did my pitch, I kind of took elements from the Adventure Team, Joe Colton. Uh, it was basically Real American Hero updated to today. Um, and the story elements were faithful and true to GI Joe, but it just kind of like different things kind of led to different things. And this is around the time, and Robert's probably going to do it really successful with Skybound, uh, where they wanted to have like a shared universe. And so like IDW is just like, here's Rom, and the next issue he kills the GI Joe. Like, well, you got to give people a reason to care about Rom for about a year before you do that. You got to build the characters up. You just can't assume that everybody's like me and is a fan of that character or something. And I had organically where I had storylines where like everything was connected, and they could steal this idea if it works and gets kids into it. More power to it. But like everything was like like GI Joe Operation. Uh, what was there was one that was like Operation Python or Operation something. Like Operation Springfield was one of them. And then there's like Operation Civil War. So like each graphic novel would look like a dossier folder with like black and white photos on it of like of panels from like like mission photos, and then it looked like you were like reading a briefing, but it was like the graphic novel. And so like I had it worked out to where every operation would probably last like or storyline would work out in about 2 years. So by the time you get to Civil War, Cobra finds out about there, like Venom was part of Cobra, but it wasn't the Venom you think of, but like people from that branch off and it creates Venom from Mask. And then you got this group is over here that creates that. And then like everybody's pissed about Cobra Law.
So now that is like the entire realm of like fan fiction with like just creating stories out of existing properties
Sure.
that aren't necessarily canon or anything yet. Stuff like that, I think, has definitely has a place, and there's a lot of people into it. There's entire websites dedicated to it. People reading and writing fan fiction.
I took something Alan Moore did back in the day.
Histank.com, fanfiction.net.
Yeah.
Well, like if you take an example of Alan Moore years ago before he went nuts and became a wizard under a bridge, he was going to bring back the DC bought the Charlton characters, Blue Beetle, Captain Atom, The Question, and I can't remember everybody who was in that.
Alan Moore became such a weird one too.
He's written some of the greatest stories, but he was going to take those and do this kind of like adult theme sort of thing. And they're like, no, we're going to use those characters. So he just created his own, and that's where you get the Watchmen. And so, like you always said, like you just create your own version of what you want. And so, some of my story points in my pitch were unique ideas of mine, not anything. It's just like I'm going to add this to GI Joe sort of thing. So those are going to end up being in my military book, and in the Realm of the action verse. So yeah, just kind of in my military book. It's gonna when you read it, it's my homage to GI Joe and some other things, but because eventually, or let me get back real quick on the Dominus. when we figured out there might be something to this, I had to rename it. So one called the Sugar Bears, because I might get General Mills might come after me. So I called it the Crusaders, but then the Iraq War is going on and all that, and that might be a bit on the nose. So I found Dominus, which is Latin, and I was like, oh, well, that sounds pretty badass. Let's use that. And then I thought, well, what story do I tell? Do I start like issue 501? Because I've got all these stories. And I'm like, well, nobody's going to know what the hell this is, nor are they going to care. It's like the Ultimate books were coming out. And I was fascinated with how they did that. So Ultimate X-Men, Ultimate Spider-Man, which were really well done back in the day, took all the baggage and threw it away and started it, in 2001 or 2002.
Well,
Now
see,
Ultimate.
that's like, go ahead.
So I thought, well, why don't I do an Ultimate version of my book? Okay, let's do that. And I never really did the origin story. And I'm like, well, and in the end, we get back full circle here. How would somebody get powers? It would either be scientific or it'd be a blessing. So it's kind of a mixture of both. So the neat thing about the first book, it's kind of like faith and science working in concert with each other and against each other. But it's not telling you to go become a religious person, not to be a religious person, because that's one thing people are like. Was it like a religious book? And I'm like, as much as GI Joe is,
right. I mean, it's not really. It's not like a religious thing. It involves elements of religion and whatnot. But
yeah, just like I said, like Raiders of the Lost Ark, like you can get, it's what you bring. And like I don't say who they vote for, who they sleep with. Well, the Simon character will tell you who he sleeps with because he kind of gets around with ladies, but like it's whoever you want him to vote for or whatever church you want him to go to is who they go in your mind. But I don't tell you that stuff because that's not important to the story. The story is important because they're a close knit group of guys. You kind of won't think it in the beginning because there's a lot of infighting, but once their backs are to the wall, they kind of they work to get backs to the wall. Wyatt's been singing the Dick G.I. Joe theme song nonstop for like several days, and he was downstairs in the other room next to me singing it right before we got on, and I was like, I'm gonna hear that, and I'm just gonna bust out laughing. And we tried to watch some episodes of the Dick series last night. He could tolerate it a little bit more than me. I was just like, oh, I might have to break this fast and have some bourbon. I don't know if I could sit through this, but yeah. So I kind of did like an ultimate take on it, and here we are. And but yeah, I think you had said this about toys. There's other YouTubers that have said this, like fans are doing the best work because
there's a
in
shitload
ultimate,
of resources out there, man. And if there's not resources, then if you don't have them readily available to you, then get to know people that have done this, or like you and I talked about originally with Artifact Recovery and Containment. You're the one who pushed me to make this happen.
me?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, like the first conversation that we had about it, dude, you're the one that pushed me to make this happen. You said, why don't you just
Terry wins an Oscar.
do it?
Best producer. He's gonna thank me. That's pretty cool.
I had a while back. I had written a story that was based on just, and I don't want to give a bunch of information away about like other stories coming up for this, but a while back, it's been probably a year and a half or so ago, I had written a story, just a little short synopsis type story to go with a 3D printed set that I was selling at a show. And I printed up a bunch of them, took them, sold a bunch of them, and I've since sold out of them. But I had little cards made that had the story on there and some artwork, stuff like that. Dana actually did the artwork for that one. But I ended up turning that into the second story for Artifact Recovery and Containment, the Widow's Lair. And then after
we've talked about that. Ooh.
Right. And then after that, further discussions with you on things like the Dominus and whatnot. That's where the third story for ARC actually doesn't come from, but it involves some of that religious aspect, the religious history aspect of it. It's the Seal of Solomon.
Well, would you say like Lord of the Rings is a religious movie?
I guess.
Well,
No,
what I meant is
it's not.
like,
It's allegorical.
yeah, there you go. So I mean, there's elements to it that it's kind of spiritual in a way, but it's not told as that. You just kind of pick up on it, you know. So that's a a good key of story, or a good example of good storytelling there with Tolkien and all that. Well, um, it's one of those things, Terry, that like if you don't try something, my dad told me once. He said, "Win, lose or draw, if you made a book, not many
Yeah,
people can say they did that. Because
exactly.
you already won. Now you just got to sell it to people, you know." And
And a problem that I have, and that I've always had, but it took many years to realize it, like why I hadn't done a lot of the things that I wanted to do. Like I have this innate fear of failure, and in my mind, anytime that I think of anytime there's something that I want to like do or take on or whatever, in my mind, I fail in my mind before I ever even try.
oh,
And a lot
there's
of
a
times with a lot of different projects and things that I've wanted to do over the years, it's kept me from doing that.
there's a great line in Dune: "Fear is the mind killer,"
Oh yeah,
and that's such a true statement. It really, truly is. Like God, I remember being in high school. I'd want to go out with some girl, and I'd be terrified to death to go speak to her. And I'm like, but I dream about her and think about her all the time. Like, dummy, just go up and talk to her. What's she gonna do? Bite you? I mean,
right.
or maybe if you're lucky, she will. But it's like, uh, But now the thing is, man, like win, lose or draw, you have to try things.
Yeah,
And if you fail, so what? You learn from it. Again, failure can lead to success if you learn from it, or failure can
right.
lead to a loss if you don't learn from it. Now, I would tell people like, yeah, if you're risking like your home, your car, your job, your family, yeah, don't do it. Don't, because there's people that the thing that I've noticed is like people will, and then I don't know if it's certain leanings or belief systems or what, but like people will quit their job and like, I'm a writer now. And
Yeah,
then like, man, you look like you haven't eaten in 2 years. Well, I haven't. You're like, well, why did you quit your job?
yeah.
Like,
The whole starving artist concept.
yeah, stop going out. Stop playing video games. Stop doing other things. Focus on your craft. Like when you're in the shower, think about stories. When you're driving to and from work, think about stories. Get your job done. Come home and work. So it's like I sometimes I feel like I'm on the Jamaicans on In Living Color. Like, how many jobs you got, man? I got 15 job, man. Those where they would work. I'm a garbage collector, police officer, fireman, ambulance driver, taxi driver. How many job you got, mine? Ah, David only got 2 job. David. It's like,
I got three
but
jobs.
but yeah, you just can't. If you have an idea, there's. I was going to say earlier about like the wrestling analogy. You got to have the look. You got to have the ability to talk on the mic. You got to be able to do the moves, but you have to have that it factor. A lot of guys don't have all four of those things. And so that's why you don't get a Stone Cold Steve Austin, a Hulk Hogan, a Ric Flair, a Sting, a Shawn Michaels every week, every year. Those guys come along once in a lifetime because they have all four of those things. So sometimes you just either have the talent or you don't. And then you just have to figure out ways to get it out there. And I think it's great because technology has changed so much. Because before I did the book, well, I had the book like I think there was like 6 pages that still needed to be colored or something because I still didn't know if I was going to do a comic, a graphic novel, or whatever. Because IDW was looking at it, it went to some committee to look at it again. Like it went to like the second step, and then like third step was I'm getting a contract, and they decided to not do it, which was kind of a blessing in disguise. Like, yeah, it kind of sucked because it's like, well, man, how cool would it be if I'm doing a book? The company that does Turtles, GI Joe, and Transformers, three of my favorite comics right now. And shortly, and it was kind of funny because shortly after they turned me down, I don't know if it was just fate, karma, what. I noticed that the sales and all those books started to drop, the quality dropped, and I was like, oh, should have picked up my book. but it was just because people were like, you're not cutting down orders, are you? I'm like, no, I love these properties. Why would I do that? But it just seemed like their company just kind of changed, and I'm glad I wasn't stuck in that because it probably wouldn't come out. And so I was working on two different novels, not comics, not graphic novels, but two novels. both kind of crime related. One was kind of like an homage to In the Heat of the Night, and another one was kind of like a very, very, very loose representation of me growing up, or like the kids in my neighborhood that I was friends with. Like literally, I just took the archetypes of us and then put us in this other situation. And somebody saw on the computer in the store some of the art, and they're like, "What is this?" I said, "Ah, it's my book." Well, why is it not out? And I was like, "Well, I don't know." And they're like, "Man, you got to get this out." And they're like, "Well, I might pitch it to Image, I might pitch it to this, but then it's like you don't get paid. You know they get paid in 6 months, and they help you forget and all this stuff." And then I saw all these guys doing the crowdfunding, like Ethan Van Sciver with Cyberfrog, and it's just like, holy smokes, he did like 300 grand. Like, and they're like, you could do that. And I'm like, you think? And they're like, yeah. I was terrified, man, but I did it, and probably did it half-assed. Probably didn't even do it. You know, I went on YouTube. I wasn't talking on anybody's podcast. I was on one guy's show, um, and I botched up. He thought it was funny, and it probably got me readers because I said, "Yeah, I'm just a." I tried to say a shop owner, and it just said I'm a pot smoker, and he's like, "What?" And I was like, "I said I meant shop owner, shop owner." And he's like, "Oh, that's cool either way." And I'm like, "I don't do that stuff," but yeah, he's like, "Oh, you know, you probably just picked up some new fans." So it's like, you know, I made a flub because I got a little nervous, but you know, because I don't know why that came to my head, because I think something he had said, and I was trying to say, oh, you know, I'm just a shop owner, and it just kind of came out weird. But no, you just got to try, and some people believed in me, and most importantly, my wife believed in me, and you know, I had a son, and I'm like, I got to do this, if anything, for him to show him the way that
Right. And
anything is
that's kind of
possible.
what I'm looking at too, man, is like I need to do this not only for myself, but I need to do this for my kids so that they can, you know, see that things are possible. If you want to do it, if you want to do it, you can make it happen.
And man, the coolest thing ever was sitting on my couch, and my son's sitting next to me, and he's reading that second Dominus book. Because he kept calling it the Thomas book, because he'd come in, oh, are you working on the Thomas book, Daddy? Yeah, can I see some of the art? And I'd explain to him, well, Thomas is fighting a hurricane with Excalibur. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, wait till you read it. It's pretty cool, you know. And then, oh, did that happen to so and so there? I'm like, yeah. Is that why you're sad? I'm like, yeah. Because you know, there's some parts of it I read that get me choked up, because I try to write it in a way where it's very real to me, and
Right.
these characters have had my heart for years.
And
But
that's something that I've really tried to do with the third story that I have. I don't think you've read that quite yet.
I don't think so. I know you sent me the first one, second one, and some notes on some
Yeah.
direction and stuff.
Yeah, I've got to send you the third one so you can check it out too. I think that one's going to be one that you will especially enjoy working on that one.
Well, I want to, and we've talked about this before. I'd like to do a. I know you kind of got me on the mic impromptu here on the Dominus subject. Like, tell us about this. You know, like, oh yeah, I wasn't prepared to talk about this
Well,
today.
that's the thing, man.
But,
like I had something totally planned out that I had planned out for days, and things happened, and that
improvise.
was not able to happen. So,
well,
things
at some point,
that plan. So
here in within the next month or so, I would like to do a live stream, a special Toy Talk edition of a live stream or whatever, where we'll talk a little bit more about the Dominus. I'll try to be more. I don't want to like give the story away, but
Right.
I want to launch a Kickstarter, so folks that haven't been able to get the book can sign up for it. And we're doing a special. I'm going to do a special where you can get both versions, or both volumes. Normally they're 25 a piece, so it'd be like $40. You get both books, and they're already produced, so the turnaround will be super quick. Like, you're not going to have to wait. I'm not going to be on some YouTube show talking about, or I won't be talking about on YouTube show about, you know, this guy didn't fill his campaign, you know, sort of thing.
Right.
Like, it already is done. And we actually filled the first book pretty quickly. And the second book, pretty good time. And we did a third, or sorry, we did the first book, then we did a reprint of the first book, and I got it all filled except for a poster IO guy in Australia. But then the pandemic happened, so I don't even know if he's still alive. But if you are, I still have your poster, and I swear I'll get it to you, if I can remember who you are. But but no, I would like to talk about it and launch a campaign on here or something. So some of your audience and David's audience, and David, if you'd like to do it too, because I would do this and when I get Dan cast going, I'm going to do the same for you guys on any of your projects. Like, come on, I'll interview you about it, and hey guys, let's get this funded. Let's get out there. But yeah, because I'm working on the third book, the story right now. I'm 21 pages in out of 100, and because we're probably going to do the first book I think was 100 pages. The second book was like 76. So there's kind of a sweet spot around the 70 to 80 page range. So I'm going to do the main story, and then I'm going to have a backup story, and the backup story is going to be kind of a prequel to the fourth book, which they'll have to go to space, and it all makes sense when you read it, because it's going to be like the third book's going to end on a really happy note, and someone's going to run in the room and be like, "Guys, we got to go to space," and they'll be like, "Whoa," and then we're kick into the fourth book. But which I think book 4 and 5 kind of go back to back, and then 6 we're back home, or maybe depends on things, because something bad is coming. I will just say that something bad is coming,
In your
and
neighborhood?
yeah. So there's
Something wicked this way comes.
there's something that I guess I could maybe kind of spoil this. There's something that every so many couple thousand years, the sum of all evil forms into one being called Malum, and Malum has been alerted and awakened, and he's coming towards Earth. And so, like, as he traverses the universe, everything behind him goes dark. So, like, planets go without light. If there's ships they can't see, all that sort of thing. And it's going to take some time for him to get to Earth, but when he gets here, it's going to be a really big deal. He's kind of like the nuclear option for the bad guys. But the only problem is sometimes you can't control. He's not good. I mean, I guess by nature, is evil because he's the sum of all evil, but he's like a force of nature. And you really can't control tornadoes and all that unless you're, well, never mind. Maybe they can. I should, you really can't control certain things, even though you think, well, I'm going to control this thing. Like, no, it's its own thing, and it's bad. So hopefully our heroes can get allies, and hopefully we survive, whatever. But that's coming. But yeah, so that'll be quite a few books down the road when they face off against him.
Well, Dan, thanks a lot for talking about your project and
Yeah,
the dominant
appreciate you asking.
coming up and whatnot. Man, we appreciate it. This is the end of our time limit for the day. I wish we could go on and on, but
If you want to go overtime, I'm good with it. We can go like 10 minutes over.
I unfortunately cannot. I got to do dad duty. So,
well, it was great to see you guys. David, today your birthday?
No, it's my twin brother's birthday.
Oh, okay.
Ah. Well, happy birthday.
Yes, happy birthday, David.
Thank you very much.
All right, we'll see you guys. Thanks for watching.
Have a great week, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Take care.